that up.
I have a black. I don't see anything.
Yeah.
It's
It shouldn't be.
normal.
It shouldn't be
Okay.
forwarding anything, but it won't. It's not updating the preview. It's detecting that I'm sending a stream and saying it's excellent condition, but I can't launch it to go live on YouTube. Facebook is good to go. Oh,
I see Facebook is good to go. What is with YouTube?
literally, it's just this one I'm looking at
So we are live, guys. You know that?
On what?
on
On
Facebook.
YouTube.
No,
On
it shouldn't
on
be.
YouTube?
Yeah.
I am Oh, okay, so it. All
We were
right.
live for like 2 minutes.
Okay, let's. Tio, take us in.
Okay, so if the audio goes through well, we have another TROM-Cast about beauty this time. And we have, even in TROM documentary, we have a section about beauty and what beauty is in today's culture or other cultures and how it's influenced by our society. And we also have a book, it's called The Ugliness of Beauty, that you can read about. And we will build upon those kind of topics to see how it goes. So just to start, I will say that this notion of beauty, it's to me, it's cultural, but also influenced by our system, or trade-based system that is pushing out all kinds of products for makeup, or products for like how you should dress, clothes, and so forth. So it kind of made this beauty idea into a business. So if anyone wants to jump in, and then we can build upon that.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. Sasha, you can go.
Culture is not separated from our system, because culture is everything in our environment. It comes from everything in our environment, so it's strongly influenced by our system. But
Yeah, and
let's get into that a little bit later. Dima, what do you want to say?
Yeah, just to add to this, it's interesting to notice how the notion of beauty is different from one, tribe and culture to another, and even not only to the tribes and countries and cultures, but also in time. Let's say in 17th century, like overweight women were considered beautiful, and today it's totally opposite. And that's with everything. And also what Theo said, that mainly it's also influenced by the monetary system, that new products have to be developed and new stuff have to be sold and so on. So people go also and inject some stuff into their bodies and do all kind of improvements of their body, and put some silicone bags under their breasts and stuff, so on, all influenced basically by the culture.
Yes, because
I think it's an interesting example. If you take a look at skin color, because in many countries where, especially women, men as well, but women are highly influenced by this. Countries like India, Indonesia, Sri Lanka, Middle East, many people who people have darker skin color, people believe that white. Where people have white skin color, then is beautiful, and they do all sorts of crap to their harmful bodies. They spend tons of money and resources on changing their skin color, and especially in countries like, Indonesia. I see it, like, it's a massive problem that gives people, I don't know, insecurities, psychological insecurities, and it's pushed by the culture. Not just the culture, pushed by companies wanting to sell people products, whitening creams, tanning salon, things like that. And basically, these companies feed off of people's insecurities, while people don't realize that this beauty is actually completely in their mind. Association of what's beautiful and what's not.
Yeah, that's interesting to notice. If anyone was in some black skin countries, don't know how to put it correctly, or let's say in some even Asian countries, yeah, you can see like there in the posters and everything, there's like the Asian guys, but they're white, They're like artificially made white, and youngsters wants to be white and everything in the culture. And then, so for them, there's like whitening creams are it's a good market. And here, let's say in Europe, it's opposite. Yeah, as Sasha said. Then here we have Solaris. People go and get tan and tan creams and everything like that.
Yeah, I also think that another side effect that this concept of beauty that is constantly changing because of market itself, because it promotes to change very fast, so people continue consuming and buying. I think it also produces not only psychological insecurity, but maybe, or not maybe, depression, because people who are very different from those stereotypes, or I don't know how to say in canons. I don't know if it's the word, but those models or images of women, men who are the image of beauty, and those who cannot afford even spending money to operate themselves, if they have not a great education background, they will probably feel depressed and rejected and have a lot of problems to keep going day by day, and it's also that problem, I guess.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people that resources on making themselves, more beautiful, more, according to their society, as opposed to making themselves healthier and are using this time wiser, for example, to learn something new. I think it's a huge waste of time, really.
But you know what? In our culture, it paid off. It really paid off. Like for these Instagram stars or even Facebook or the people who wants to be celebrities, the more they invest in their body and their look, because mainly what they do, post selfies and pictures with them, how beautiful they are, the more money they can get at the end, the more attention and more opportunities. So that's like the whole society is based on over that. And I mean, the more appealing you, the more followers you have, the more you can have endorsements and further opportunities. But yeah, yeah, no.
Even for products that what I argued in Trom documentary is that you can release some phones and they will be a bit different, maybe in terms of their capacity, their whatever you have inside, video, graphic cards, and so forth. But if you focus on the beauty side, you can sell a lot more variety of that phone. So companies rely on this new beautiful phone, new beautiful laptop, everything. It's about the package, because they can sell it so many times. It's the same phone, they can sell it so many times. It's the same piece of clothes, but they only put their logo about it's this company or that company, or they change a little bit in the design and they can resell it again. It's not about purpose at all, because you can not sell purpose or variety in terms of functionality. You cannot sell functionality that well that you in the same way that you can sell beauty, because beauty is subjective. You can create a new design for the phone like next year. Now they make those foldable phones. Probably they have little to no functionality, but you see they are so beautiful. It's like a butterfly. And others make them very thin, other make them in other ways. So it's a way for companies to make a profit and to push this idea of beauty even more into people's heads.
And push beauty
Yeah,
over use.
and then yeah, and also what's happening now is you have a standard that's set by this by the global system, basically, and it's a standard of beauty that's not actually achievable because it's Photoshop, it's fake, it's what you see online or on billboards or whatever. And because it's not achievable, people will try to achieve it, and they will have to buy more and more products to try to achieve it. So again, it's just playing off of people's insecurities.
It will not be profitable to achieve it for companies.
Exactly.
No, of course not. No. Yeah.
It is not profitable for people to feel satisfied with the way they look or with the phone that they have or the house that they live in. It is only profitable for them to be unsatisfied and for them to feel insufficient. And this culture breeds the feeling of insufficiency. And there's so many TV shows that exist that is like that are transforming a person from like the way they used to look into now this beautiful type of being, creating all kind of surgeries and fitness programs and face restructuring and then Botox here and titties here and fucking this there. It's crazy. And just in order for them to look a certain way, in order to have a consumeristic mindset to keep the ball
In our
rolling.
society, everything is pushed to the extremes. They are pushing the profits to the extremes. It's not enough today to have those clothes or this kind of look. They have to push it a little bit here, a little bit there, because they cannot keep in their business. If they offer a treatment, like a facial treatment or whatever surgery is, and they will say, okay, you are beautiful, that's it. Yeah. You will be out of that business. You need to say next year that, no, this is not quite perfect. You know, that white of your teeth is not that white. You have to be or something like that.
Yeah. What was his name? The cousin of Sigmund Freud. I think Edward Bernays. His name is, and he was one of the main proponents in the, I don't know when it was, 60s or something, of automobile cars changing each year and so on, in order to accelerate consumption and to make consumers unhappy with their products, so they have to keep buying more. And more.
That idea of Ford was like, he tried to be more like practical guy, and he said, we have cars, they come in two colors, it's black and white, because they didn't add a lot of variety in terms of that. He said that a car is a fucking car, what do you want more? But the guy came and said, no, next year they should be blue and they should be red, and we should put something here and something there to sell the same stuff year after year after year.
So how do you think why it's so important for us to achieve this perfection, like for our society, perfection, to be beautiful, and what drives people?
It is the society and the system. It's
everybody
pushing that.
Everybody just, I think people just want to be accepted by each other.
Yeah.
Right now in the society we live in, we kind of have lost community. People no longer live in really strong communities that support each other. We live in places where people are competing with each other. They're competing against their looks. They're competing against anything, and it causes them to want to be, more beautiful, more this, want to impress people, because they're not getting enough attention from the communities they live in, I think.
And there's this idea of success that is kind of portrayed in society. And like you said, Dima, so many people invest into themselves in looking a certain way, because they know that if they look a certain way, they might be more likely to get a job, or they might get more advertisers on their page if they have bigger titties or whatever. And that's what people do. And this is more, they have that bigger house, then maybe they might have more rich friends over and all those kinds of things. So it's like to ascertain this idea of success that's also being fed to people, or the American dream, or whatever you want to call it.
This also have an indirect effect on those people who cannot achieve beauty, because you say this is what is beautiful and others can achieve that, but indirectly in people's heads it's like you compare with that. You compare, and you may feel ugly because you are too skinny or too fat or too short or too tall. And that's a problem. I remember when I was in school, I was very stressed out because I was very, very skinny, for example. And I understood this thing with beauty even back then. But still the pressure, because I knew in my environment that, is like, what the fuck, you are like a skeleton, so skinny. And it stressed me out so much that I sometimes wear like 2-3 pairs of pants in the summer just to not look so skinny, and 2-3 blouses I was so uncomfortable. I was so stressed out. I cannot explain to you how much. And no one would understand, like, why are you so stressed out? Only fat people are stressed out. And I say, no, when you are different from the norm, you are stressed out. It doesn't matter if you're fat or skinny, So I know it fucked with my mind a lot in my school years.
Did you try binge eating?
Jeez, I was eating like crazy.
Eating like fat and like.
But I was so scared. I refused to go actually to. It was so crazy for me. I refused to go to like a swimming pool or something like that in the summer. That's how much the impact had on me. Like I don't remember for like 3-4 years to ever wear like short pants or something like that. It was crazy for me. It's possible because I come from an environment in a city that everyone is so critical about other people. They gossip all the fucking time, And when you are part of such people, you know that they are gossiping about everyone, including you, And even those people who gossip about others' appearance, they too are stressed out because they too know that others may gossip about them. They are in the same kind of shit together, It's stupid. And I never understood, even when I was very young, I never understood, why do you give a fuck about how other people dress or how other people look like? I mean, it's your business. If you dress this kind of way, what the fuck do I have to? I have no opinion about that. I know that in today's society, people have this opinion of, do you think it's pretty? Like this blouse, those clothes are pretty. Do you think it looks good on me? I never had any opinions about that, and some people are like confused, like, how can you not have any opinion? Because I don't know. What the fuck? If you like it, it's your fucking business. What can I say?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think from my perspective, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that fundamentally, I think it comes down to this concept of comparative values and everything being a competition at the end of the day, which is forced about by trade, and everyone, competing with the other person who looks better, who has bigger muscles, and that's what the steroids are all about. And people and bodybuilders wanting to be who's the biggest and who has all the different muscles and aspects like that, or women, who has the nicest legs or the biggest titties or whatever. So it's or the nicest clothes and the more expensive house, the more expensive car. So it's all about competition and comparative values. If you have nothing to compare to and you're happy yourself and you're self-sufficient in that sense, that you're not now trying to compare yourself with another person, then you can't necessarily be enticed to buy all kind of different products that fuel this trade game.
That's also a part of the consumerist culture, when people most of their time spent on the works, earning money, and then they have to spend it. Otherwise, it was like useless to spend so much time earning money, and what should I do with it? So that's why they pay attention to the outlooks and such unimportant things. Like for us, let's say it's unimportant, but for them it's important because you can pay, you can see that somebody, both let's say expensive dress or expensive car or made any plastic surgery or whatever. You just know it's cost a lot of money. That's why you value it also. And people have nothing to do. They don't have any let's say higher aims or goals in their life. They just live and consume. That's about it.
So
Yeah,
I have a question. If people just pay attention to, in relation to what Seb was saying, so if people just pay attention to these things that are artificial and temporary and not real many times, what people should more pay attention to, or they should pay attention to others in any aspect, because maybe comparing, I don't know if the proper word, but it can be motivating. For example, this person has achieved this. I don't care about his aspect or whatever, but what he does makes me feel like I think he or she is beautiful or whatever, if I have to use that word. And for example, I would like to try to do the same as he or she, and try to see if I can do that, or not in a artificial way, but in other ways. So I think that the concept is changing. Obviously, for me, has changed, and because it's subjective, and within time, if do you think we will talk about beauty in like this, or
Yeah.
You mean like the beauty of the actual, like the inner person?
meaning like
You're trying to say
because
that?
I have the idea that people, or in generally, we have seen that over centuries, people, because of culture and trade, look a lot or pay attention to artificiality, you know, the dress, the body, whatever. So that makes them maybe compare, and we were talking that comparing is not, I understand, like comparing to others will is not like a good thing or a proper thing to. And I was thinking, like, if we can, in that sense, try to talk about if comparing is always bad or not.
Yeah, I think maybe they are like two things, and it's like you can be inspired by somebody, and that can have
Uh-huh.
like a positive thing, or you can be threatened. And within this culture, most people feel threatened by another person if their skills might be better than that other person's
Yes.
skills. Like for example, if you like to sketch a lot, and then there's another person who is also sketching, and they can maybe know how to sketch the anatomy of a human body a little bit better because they have some skills that they have learned and so on. And most people might view that as a threat because they sketch better than you, but actually in a way they could be extensional to you in terms of you being able to learn so much that they could be an inspiration in some way.
Exactly,
but
but
today's but today's
yeah, yeah,
society
exactly.
doesn't reinforce it, sadly.
Yeah, totally agree with that said. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
And beauty, I think it's also, it depends how you frame it, because if I look behind me, those photos for me are really beautiful, but they are beautiful in another kind of sense, because I understand what goes into that. I understand parts of it. I understand that those red colors might be hydrogen, or those other colors might be another kind of molecule that can allow life to form, and then you see it in a completely different way. So when you see that kind of photo with a galaxy or something like that, some astronomers I've seen, they say this is so beautiful, but they say it in a completely different way, not in this kind of simplistic and knee-jerk reaction, but they have a lot more weight put on that kind of beauty. And I feel like our society, the smarter you are as a human being, the more you know about the world, the more this notion of beauty will change, because you will look at the telescope and you will not care if it's pink or whatever, but you will care about the mechanics behind it. Or a building, like even Jack was arguing about this, Jack Fresco from the Venus Project, that instead of seeing a building as beautiful because of subjective or simplistic notions, maybe you see a building beautiful because you know that this dome shape uses less resources, or maybe it's more resistant to weather, and so forth. So it can evolve. The smarter you are, I think the more it will evolve, this notion.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
that's a great point too. And like for myself, I see beauty in helping people. When you help or somebody other help you, or you just see that people helping each other, I see it as a very beautiful event, let's say. And depends from person to person. But such notions of beauty, which might be different from person to person, and you should have some kind of background and some kind of knowledge and some kind of intelligence. I don't know how to put it correctly, but it's harder, of course, to kind of sell and make a profit out of it. So that's why it's not so popular, I would say.
Yeah. I would say that's a really great point, because beauty is a constantly changing thing. It's like a transient thing, and sometimes you might think one piece of music is beautiful, but then you learn how to play guitar and other things, and then you realize, oh, maybe this is a bit more beautiful or functional in that way. So your understanding shifts your perspective, and the same goes for me. For example, I've learned a bit more about the human body because I do something, or I'm trying to do something called functional patterns, which learns about like the the most effective ways of moving or functional ways of moving in regards to human evolution and stuff like that. So throwing, running, and those types of things. And you don't look at like being super muscular or whatever is not necessarily functional for human movement and health. Whereas if you throw a certain way, it might be more functional, and that's that understanding changes your concept of beauty in a way.
You can buy a very beautiful chair in that sense, and you'll fuck your back. You'll be having problems, but you can buy a very functional chair, and then that's for me what I see as maybe beautiful, because I understand that it's very practical for me, and it helps you with your back problems or something like that. Because some people have this, and I want to mention this, have this notion that beauty is something natural for humans, in the sense that we observe beauty in other people because we are inborn with this kind of maybe almost like a feeling towards some person as being beautiful. Do you know this argument, this evolutionary argument that we are somehow able to detect beauty, and beauty is somehow natural because what is ugly can be universally ugly or something like that?
Yeah,
I've heard something like that. Yeah, sorry, Cody.
it goes. There's something to do with symmetry is a good indicator that your genes and your DNA is kind of good, not deformed. Like if your face is half deformed, so obviously there's something wrong with you. So symmetry is one of the big things that humans is kind of like a thing that you can pin attractiveness or that cuteness word on. Symmetry is a good indicator, and there's actually like a mathematical model that they've constructed for face beauty. So it like your ears and eyes and nose, and they've calculated how these different weightings go into whatever. But then how subjective is that to their own experience?
Set that as
I heard something that about that idea that it was hinting, and something that I remember it was something like we associate beauty with calm and ugliness with I don't know how to say dizziness or intranquility. You know, it's something like when you are in a beautiful place, you feel more relaxed than when you are in a ugly place, or for
That's
for whatever this
that's
means.
not always true. It's just, let's say,
Mm-hmm.
Seb gave example with the music. I would say the same. Like many people prefer, let's say, standard and easy to understand and listen music, which use beautiful harmonies and so on. But the more you grow as a musician, you start to find beautiness in really dissonance, in really ugly melodies. You start to see them really beautiful because they're unusual, because you see how inside, how avoiding all the musical rules, it sounds, and it sounds different, and you start to acknowledge that
Yeah.
and really value. So I think, as Theo or Seth,
I
I don't
get.
remember now mentioned, it's more about your education and how deep you are inside something topic, then your perspective of what beauty is changed.
Yeah, I think it's always culturally.
Yeah, and
Yeah, sorry.
say your point.
You're cutting. Okay, now.
I was just gonna say that's one issue with concentrating, like having our society drive huge concentration on the physical aspect of beauty. I think underestimate how much time they spent on beauty. Am I still connecting? It says poor
Yeah,
problem.
you're okay. You're coming through all right.
Okay. I think underestimate the time of their lives in general. Go to a hair salon, and you spend 200 haircut. It's not just $200. It's the amount of time it took you to earn that money to waste going there, coming back. If you add all of this up, it's probably a lot of time for a lot of people. And you could have used that time to work on your inner beauty, like learning a musical instrument, like learning about, how the world works, the universe works. But all you're going to have is this improvement to your physical body, which in time will deteriorate anyway. It will change from the standard of what you consider normal. But inside, you're always going to be able to learn more. I mean, unless you have some kind of problem. But, you can always do your inner beauty. It's just fucking waste of time.
I also feel like in today's society, people don't try to make themselves beautiful because they enjoy that, but because they feel the pressure to do so. So it becomes like this is the ugliness of beauty. It becomes a very ugly game because you cannot. I know there are girls who don't go out if they don't have makeup, and they are stressed out about that. They cannot go out without a makeup.
Girls in
so-
Russia garbage out sometimes without makeup. Like fucking garbage out of your house. I talked to one girl one time who was covered in her whole body operated like like balloons and think about her. And talked to her for one time. All she ever did her tits and her ass. And it was just sad to me. Like this is the only thing you can talk about. You like my tits, you like my ass, and I just felt bad for her. She's nice.
and
Yeah,
it
but
just
that's purely
life is
cultural and value system. The same as you said, Sasha. You can see beauty in expanding, your knowledge and your skills, and your inner self, and basically build a personality out of you and invest your time in some learning. But others see beautiful, purely visual.
I just wanted to add to not let
But I
this
think
slip.
they don't.
Okay. Okay.
I was just gonna say, I think it's about how to start an environment, because now we've created this passage tree that's completely useless. It's actually like the textile industry. I think is the second to most polluting industry that we have out there. The amount of waste is ridiculous. Like the amount of waste for makeup. Makeup is completely useless. Like it's not something that we need, as a culture. It shouldn't anyway.
You're not right, because
And
without makeup, we cannot
when
mate
you
to each
have
other.
piles and piles, yeah, right. Not the makeup, but why can't we mate without makeup? So, so you
I
have
think
like this piles and
there are
piles of
statistics that say
whatever the fuck.
show that the investment in like the lipstick industry, it's a lot greater than in the science. I saw a statistic, something like in science in UK, for example, they invest more in lipstick research than they do in science or something like that. But I don't want to let this slip through with the notion of beauty from a scientific perspective, because this pisses me off a little bit, because it's even scientists are going down this path of nonsense, basically, when they say, okay, symmetry, it resembles beauty and so forth. These are so arbitrary, because there are so many people with symmetrical faces that are cancerous, both in terms of their cells and their mind. And there are also people who have all kinds of non-symmetrical faces, or they don't have an arm or leg or something, and they are very healthy. So they are trying to take what they find in the animal kingdom in some simplistic organisms. They interpret that in a human way, and they try to put it back to our human societies and say that, oh, guys are attracted when they see a girl with red lipstick, because red means whatever they think it means. It's such I read a lot of papers on this, and it's such a bullshit. Basically, it's a nonsense, a complete nonsense, and they are peddling this notion, and people say, oh, look, even scientists say that beauty is something that is normal and natural. And of course I am ugly. Look at me, my face is in one side, and I'm so ugly now. And even from an evolutionary perspective, this is very dangerous to peddle such ideas.
Even Michio Kaku, you mentioned in the book, said that from an evolutionary perspective, people are beautiful because they look maybe a bit healthier in certain regards. But how can you tell? You might look very healthy, but you might have AIDS or a tumor inside or have a cancerous brain, like you just said. So it's
Or
completely
a shitty attitude.
more shitty attitude. Exactly.
Another good point, even if you met a girl with a super symmetrical face with a huge boobs and she's like supermodel and she seems beautiful for you and you start to speak with them and she talk nothing nonsense rubbish, she start to humiliate you, I don't know, throw up or whatever, she will become ugly for you, for real. You know, because you know the person inside, you start to see her like real person, not on the outlook. And doesn't matter how
Yeah, so
symmetrical
no matter
her face will be, she'll be ugly for you.
no matter how many operations you have, you're not gonna fix your inside.
But you see, when Theo said about the scientists, how everyone is conditioned, how much conditioning is going on to this idea and to get the trade going on, because you know millions of music videos, movies, advertise everything on and on the streets, on TV. You know, it's a huge amount of media going that people get exposed to. So yeah, it's incredible.
Movies fucked things up a lot. So one is a recent example. Movies, there are movies which portray people who have deformities as monsters, for example, like a big head or a non-symmetrical face. And even for me, it gets into you. And when you see such a human being on a street, for example, you might look weird at that human being because you see like this big head or like tiny hands and so forth. And they fuck things up in a big way. And it's a channel on YouTube. It's called, I put it now on Tom created videos. It's called Special Books by Special Kids. And it's a guy who interviews people of all ages with all kinds of deformities. Some of them you look at them and you see, wow, it's like in a horror movie. But the thing is that the more I watched those videos, the more I got to understand that this stupid thing that movies and the culture put inside our brains, and you start to see beyond all kinds of physical appearances, and you start to see the inside of someone. And it's such a fucked up thing, because even for me, when I saw some videos from that channel, it's not like I said those people are ugly, but I was surprised. I was surprised by their appearance because it was something that I never saw before. And if you raised kids in a way that they could understand that there are other kinds of people out there with other kind of physical appearances, not deformities, then you will train kids to see this kind of beauty in a very different way, And I think that's my point here. The movies, for example, they fuck things up, because I remember some movies that I've seen with people that looked like these people that I see on YouTube. Those poor people, I mean, it's like making a monster out of your look. It's very shitty.
And it's the same situation with sexuality from the same movie, same mainstream media, when women are mainly portrayed as rewards for men, and they have to be sexy with big boobs and everything. And so, like, regular woman wants to be, that woman, because they always in the movies are successful. That's what the perfect woman looks like, and so on. And then it's interesting to understand why it's so, why women are so sexy in the movies and mainstream media, because sex takes our attention instantly. That's the way human reacts, and that's why it's so broadly used in media, and then it have consequences to the whole society at the end.
Yeah, and you end up objectifying women.
It creates a judgmental. Sorry, go ahead.
I guess that to make it profitable, they get from the wide spectrum of humanity, just the specific, to make it more scarcity, and people want to the stuff that we are all talking about.
And if just one narrative is pushed on movies, that the girls have to look a specific way and guys have to act and look a specific way, and everything is so attention seeking and made to shock people and so on, rather than to understand how a person who's blind might consider beauty to be, or who's deaf blind, or who looks a certain way, instead of making fun of that. And the same with fat people or with super skinny people, instead of judging them, which today's culture promotes because the movies tell you to think this is specifically beauty or that is specifically beauty or beautiful. You have to understand why people are shaped and to be a certain way or to do certain things and to look a certain way, and empathize and understand that people are very different and they have different uh, different what's it called, senses, and with those senses they then can kind of make up their subjective reality of what is beautiful or interesting for them.
I was always curious, like, what is beauty for a blind human being?
Exactly.
And they research that a little bit to see what they think, and of course it differs. It's again influenced by culture because it's impossible not to, but they look at different things like a softer voice, or for example a more interesting mind, because they don't have this kind of feedback, visual feedback that we have, and it was hijacked by our culture.
Yes, I remember, I know that you also know, Theo, this guy who calls himself a cyborg, who creates a device that implements it in his head in order to, because I think he was blind, but he makes some kind of sensors in a way that
Colorblind.
they create sounds. So it create a kind of language associating the sounds to something else. So he can. It was I don't remember. Can you remember that guy?
Yeah, there's a type, right, that he
Do you know
heard in
him?
color, right?
Mm-hmm. He was hearing the way that you
Exactly.
dressed, in terms of colors.
Exactly.
Times that
To
he
see
even made
colors.
paintings, right?
It was a sound associated to many different colors. So when the receptor catches the sound, it converts to sound. So he hears the colors. So he hears different sounds for different faces because different faces have different colors, and he could say that every sound was different, and maybe the sounds are very subjective to him. It was very strange to me that.
Yeah, that's an interesting way to go beyond just the visuals, but add a new layer to this. This guy added like an auditory layer, in that sense.
Yeah, because most mainly we associate beauty with the visual sense, how certain things appear and so on, and then maybe the secondary one is the auditory sense, how, and that's a big thing to do with music and the whole musical industry. But most people don't necessarily think about the way things smell. Maybe taste is as well a big one within this culture, and certain people say, oh, this is the best food that you can eat, and there's a whole industry based on like fine dining and culinary courses and this and that, and people have in this society this notion of like the perfect masterpiece of art or the perfect masterpiece of food and this and that, whereas it's very, very subjective and culturally based.
I think art is the most like straightforward example that beauty is bullshit. Basically, it's completely subjective. You see some fucking art that is I'm not impressed with anything, but it's like $70 million.
Yeah.
It took me a long time to spray all that ketchup on there, Tio. Come on.
Yeah, my brother is a curator of an art gallery in New York, and he's like the first person that will tell you like it's complete made up, like it's all just made up, and it's all about who you know. It's nothing to do with the actual piece what they look like. Like complete shit.
Yes, because I think that because it's really sorry. It's really embedded into the trade, but maybe art should be able to inspire, no, and see the things different and move forward. It's also, but it's just that doesn't sell, I guess.
Yeah, it's not like, for example, I say that those paintings are ugly or the art is bullshit. I'm just saying that we shouldn't consider this like an universal thing. Like this art is beautiful because we kind of agree on that. No, it's just a subjective thing. That's
Yeah.
it. And it's weird that we even have to bring this into the discussion, because you might think that an intelligent species that we say we are, they realize this stupid thing that is, of course, it's subjective. Look across the cultures. Go take Mona Lisa, go to Nigeria and show to some people there and be like, how much would you pay for this? And they would be like, fuck, what the fuck do you want to do with this? Fuck this ugly lady.
They might be like, oh, she's white.
Yeah, oh, she's white.
Yeah, and there's a great page on the book as well about that, with people painting with their dicks or vomiting as art and this and that, and or defecating, even shitting on a piece of whatever canvas, and that just shows how what some people might think was beautiful, other people might find disgusting, and that goes with most other things.
But is it genetic? That's the question.
Definitely is. The beauty gene.
Yeah.
But again, such art, it's also seeking for attention. Like if you write something with your penis, it's not about that it gives some unique texture. Is that this notion of penis will be, put on all media mainstreams, and everyone will see that. The same, there was one guy who made his name like art guy. I don't know how to call him. He just shot himself in a hand with a gun, and that was his art installation. That was so unlogical and stupid, but every newspaper wrote about it, and he made his name, and then he do some other unreasonable stuff.
Yeah, completely. It's kind of all for-profit entertainment. It's like all industries are just there in order to entertain you, to make a profit out of it. And some people consider that beautiful, like to become a football star and to sit there and you're in the Champions League final or whatever. That's the most beautiful thing possible. Or to be painting the Mona Lisa, or people do whatever they do and consider that's beautiful because it's rewarded by society, and it's done for shocking reasons in order to make a profit out of it, because that's what's pushed.
I've seen a documentary about art in China. It's a city, like a village in China. I don't know if you are aware of it, but there are many people there. They live like rats, and they paint like Van Gogh or whatever the other paintings. They paint them manually, like hundreds and hundreds and thousands and thousands. They're like a factory. They're very poorly paid. Those guys are so fucking talented, but they live like in the worst conditions, and they produce the same painting like Mona Lisa. They produce it like hundreds of times a week. That guy is like so many more times more artisty than the guy who originally painted it, and you cannot tell the difference. And an expert in the field said that over 99% of everything in the art world, especially paintings, are fake. So because you can never tell the difference. So 99% is like, I was like, are you sure? And I had to research this a little bit, and apparently, yeah, kinda is hard to tell, but kinda like that,
Yeah, it's quite common for the great artists and for the really kind of skilled, and let's say we can call talented or not, but really skilled artists in their craft, that they're unknown, and they basically live all their life in misery and really struggle. Even if we could take Van Gogh, the writer, he became famous only after his death. During all his lifetime, he was extremely poor. He was like super poor. Yeah. So what is it for him? At the end, he lived really tough and lose a life. But now we consider him, that's Van Gogh. That's a really respectable and cool guy. But his life was terrible.
The attention. Everyone wants attention. I know it's a few months ago. Okay. For me, I can barely hear Sasha.
He's telling you to go.
Just say go.
Go. I just wanted to say this attention economy that a year ago or so, it was a couple on YouTube. They wanted views, lots of views, and they were testing all kinds of guns. And they said, tomorrow we are going to test a gun to see if it goes to a Bible. and the husband was keeping the Bible on his chest, and they announced that on Twitter. And the next day they shot, and she killed the guy, and now she's in prison. But it was such a surreal thing. Like, are you serious? They announced on Twitter, it's there on Twitter, tomorrow, a new episode, And fuck, she killed the guy. They had kids and so forth, and they still fuck things up for views.
Maybe his belief wasn't strong enough.
Yeah.
He was working with the devil.
Yeah.
We need to replicate it, experiment again.
But you might think that this is something that you see in movies.
Yeah.
But no, it's something that happens in real life.
Man, that video was cheetah. When in the safari park, when the family just get out of the car and have a picnic in front of cheetah. That's like, what the fuck?
I was like,
why?
I could not understand that. Like, for those who don't know, a family in Netherlands, they go to a safari park. The cheetah all of those big animals were there, and they get out of the car. They put the picnic there with the kids, and
really small kids. Yeah.
And cheetah were like, "What the fuck are these people doing? Like, let's eat them." And they jump on them and they escaped. But I'm like, wow, how can you do this? Like, oh my god.
Yeah, it's really weird.
Because the cheetahs were beautiful, they needed photos. So this thing with beauty, it's like some people argue that it's something natural, but I think we can agree that it's impossible to find something that's natural in terms of beauty, because some people give me an example. They say, what if you see someone with maggots on their face and like you see the skin falling off, or couldn't you say that this is ugly? Of course, when you go into such extremes, maybe you will say that, okay, it's gross for me, but it's still, I think it's still subjective. I mean, you have to visit the dark web and read some forums there to see what people are sexually attracted to, or just consider beauty, because you will be surprised what fetishes people have in this world. So even such things, I'm sure you will find a bunch of people who will say, oh, that's quite sexy, it turns me on. So even that, in extreme cases, I think it cannot be natural.
And that's also interesting when you start to know this person. Like if it's visually have some defects. Let's say I knew the guy in my childhood who had like some facial defects and deformation and some cuts, and he really looked ugly, like really. But and until you don't know him, you really consider him ugly. But then there was a time I started to speak with him and hang out with him. And after a while, I realized how beautiful this person is inside. And after, few weeks or months just communicating with him, I started to see him as normal, I started to see him as a, beautiful human being. And that's also interesting, how our perception, when you go deeper, not only when you judge person, not only visually, but also.
Yeah, like I give you an example with that video, with the YouTube channel.
And yeah.
If people will follow the Trump-created videos, you will see that this guy will post more and more videos, and you will be surprised by the appearances. It's probably, but watching the interview, you will change the way that you see them. You will change, and it's not our fault, to see this. As I said, it's the fault of our society. We are not exposed to such information. Only through movies, like, oh, this guy with a big head and big eyes is like a monster. Oh, whatever the fuck.
And we're taught to judge people and compete.
It's also enforced by your surrounding environments and stuff. If you're made fun of for the person you're with, or there's something fun about them, there's outside pressure on you and your view of those people.
Yeah, and I find it really sad. Like, I have friends, in Indonesia that are from if they have dark skin, they're told that they're ugly. Told that because ugly, they're not going to be able to achieve. A really funny friend. Her family said, not only like, are you ugly, but because you're ugly, you will never find a husband. You will never be able to get a job. You will never be able to go to university or it's great because she proved it. She proved wrong and married a guy from Romania, actually a white guy, and for them that's like the ultimate like, you know, and got a good job, double the amount of anybody in her family. But it's most people don't. Most people are if they're ridiculed about this from childhood. It's really hard for them to grow up and to be able to have sane adulthood.
In many parts of Africa, it's a
Or
problem with albinism. Do you know?
when you're
It's
constantly worried about.
when people are born and they lack that pigment on the skin and they are white, and it's a huge problem because people there, because of their appearance, they actually kill some of these people because they think they bring them bad luck or luck, depends on the area, and they are usually very marginalized. And it's such a stupid thing to think about it from this outside perspective, to see like a guy who has a different kind of skin color should be so oppressed by the environment is so crazy. But it's again lack of education. It's crazy.
They also make some kind of medicine out of them, of this albino's skin and bones.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's very yeah, they come there and cut their hands and legs, and yeah, sell them to this kind of local healers who make some special medicaments out of it. That's really creepy.
The other day, I saw a short documentary about settled in India, that because I didn't know that in many parts of India or in the whole India, I think that people do not talk much about menstruation. It is like that in English, menstruation. You say like that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it's like a taboo, and they don't have a, because it was settled in a village which was next to the capital, so it was not very far from the center. It was communicated and stuff. And it was incredible for me because I didn't realize, I didn't understand how something that I see in such normal, and do not have any consideration about ugliness or beauty with that. They, for example, they cannot go to temples when they have menstruation, because it's related to something that it's bad and ugly, and for example, when they ask them about what causes menstruation, they don't know. And girls and women were very embarrassed when they were asked about that. It's like they couldn't talk. It was like, I get very, and the documentary showed that someone makes a machine to create I lack vocabulary, but the things that you put to cover that. I don't know how to explain word, but they don't use it. They just use whatever they could took, and in that way they were working and creating a product that they could use and sell. And also it's also for economy in that place, and for culture, and it was very interesting. I recommend.
Primitive minds.
Yeah,
If
it was
if they're
amazing.
not educated, that's what happens.
I got shocked.
Yeah.
And how?
I think that's not only in India. I think that's in West as well. And if you teach, they, I think menstruation is still a taboo subject. But it should just people should just be educated and to understand physical processes, and that's it.
Sasha, do you think it's more of a pressure on girls in society from this beauty aspect?
I don't know. It's hard to say. You mean in general? Is the aspect of beauty oppressing females, women more than men?
Yeah, if it
Is that
affects
your
them
question?
more than.
Yeah. Probably.
I think in most cultures,
Yeah,
yes.
probably. Yeah, I think in most cultures because there's so much emphasis on how a woman should look and to do your nails, whatever the way your body looks. For men, it's less important. For men, it's like as long as they make the money. If they have some pretty items and money to show, then that's supposed to show their beauty. Whereas the female is supposed to show their beauty through their physical body.
And I think they in today's society they are trying to also push it more and more on guys as well, because look at those hairy mammals. You don't have to be hairy. You don't have to be. You have to be more muscle. You have to do other things. So it's. I think I've noticed that, and that's why I'm asking, because I kind of noticed that from my experience, that it was a lot of pressure on girls in this society from this perspective, but it's starting to get a lot more on guys as well for the past years with their physical beauty, like so many creams, lotions, for so many like beauty products for guys is like.
Yeah. Fashion too. The fashion industry sweeps both genders. I think women probably more, but yeah, men as well. Especially with
Yeah,
fast fashion, when you have so many products, you can just buy more and more stuff. It's more cool
I
stuff. You're always new. You're always, showing something pretty. Go on.
I think that maybe just in very little uh, cultures, like for example, when Jack Fresco talked about the Tuamotu Island, where there was no such that concepts that we understand today of beauty, and they relate very differently. They don't stare at each other on the genitals or other parts, and so yes, is but from what I know, I think that generally speaking, uh, I agree that we can see more present too on the masculine side or the men's side of humanity. Also, that is cultural because we can see that many do not fit to that biology. There's a wider spectrum. There's no just male or female, not in biology nor in culture. So
That story that Jack Fresco said, it was so funny, because it was like those people were naked. That was how they walked, like naked all of the time, and they gave them those volunteers T-shirts. And when they came back the next day, they cut the T-shirts to take off their breasts, because they said, "Fuck it, this is so uncomfortable."
Exactly.
So that says a lot
Yeah,
about
super funny.
values.
Yeah.
yeah, something I
Well,
recall
it's not
that.
like. Go
No,
ahead.
it's just quick. I recall it was very funny. Like, they relate different. It's like when you have a dog, you don't go to the bullocks directly. You touch the
Yeah.
whole dog. And here we are just swift that. um,
Yeah. That's how fetishes are created. It's
so,
funny how here in Denmark and in Germany and so on, there are many places where people swim naked and it's totally normal for everyone to be naked and stuff like that. There are special beaches as well for that. But if you go to other parts of the world, like in the Middle East where I used to live, if you just like show any part of your body, you'll be
That's the
arrested within
opposite.
seconds. Yeah, you'll go to jail and.
yeah. Wow. We have some nudist beaches on Valencia where I live, but mainly majority are you cannot be naked. People will arrest you or something like that. But in some areas that traditionally has been nudism, you can go there and just be like you born.
It's
What do
very
you guys think
difficult for
about
most
this
people
concept of
of them.
being naked, like just for not having clothes on, and be thrown in jail?
I didn't get that story.
Yeah, I guess because they claim about public order, and people are so conditioned to feel threatened by naked people because of culture, religion. They feel threatened or something like that, or they feel uncomfortable, and they will call police.
I know
But
that in
it's
Barcelona, because Barcelona is near the coastline, if you go into the city with only if you have only the swimsuit, you will get a fine. It's like 50 to 100 euros fine. They see you in the center of the city with just the swimsuit. So it's not only it's not a swimming suit. It's like for girls it's top and bikinis, and for guys just pants. If you only go like that, so it's not only it's not only Dubai that is or the Arabic world that is extreme. The tribes in the world are extreme, from Spain to whatever. And they are so scared of the naked body that they made this society crazy a little bit, and it fucks with people's minds. It's impossible not to, because we live in this kind of society. I wouldn't feel comfortable to maybe go naked into a city or something, because I too am fucked up by this society. Okay, so I understand. It's like
The
it
reaction
creates
you'd get
it's a
would be,
problem. Yeah, of course.
yeah, you wouldn't want that reaction. I mean, walking around the city naked.
Someone will beat you or something. Will be like, this guy is crazy.
That's interesting
Everyone
how
else.
being naked is so offended to some people, but they're not offended by poverty and
Or
by
the fact that they
hunger
work
and by
8 hours
war
a day.
and everything. Yeah.
They
It's,
work
it's
out
kind of
8 hours
normal,
a
but
day.
if somebody naked is, yeah. Mm.
It's normal, yeah.
There's also a book discussing that, a short one Theo made. I translate. I really like Offensive and Obscene. It's about this topic.
There's this thing that Jack said, that if people would be as offended about naked body, to be as offended about wars as they are about naked bodies, then we will fix a lot of problems.
Real.
Yes, very great one.
So
What else is really
yeah.
funny? Industry. Dog clothing. I mean, like I feel like I can barely find a naked dog anymore. Like in the
Yeah.
cities.
So,
What?
10 years
What a
from now, you will get a
useless fuck.
fine.
Industry. Yeah. This dog isn't wearing.
Just imagine.
So be careful with Dana, Rafa, your dog.
I will have to buy some
Clothes or
panties
something.
for her. I don't know. Well, it's better for her.
We laugh, but let's wait, because I think it may happen.
it's possible for sure.
No, it's offensive to see your dog asshole walking on the street. What?
Maybe
Yeah,
people in
it's
the past
getting
will have said, I cannot imagine a society where it will be a problem if people would walk naked or in some clothes. They would be like, that would be ridiculous, But today, you have that.
Yeah.
It's just crazy.
Mm-hmm.
What do you guys think, fashion critics?
What?
About what?
About fashion critics.
Oh.
Fashion critics.
The guys who put themselves in charge.
There's probably dog clothes fashion critics by now.
Of course.
Yeah.
Jeez. I see here in Spain, over here, I see some vans. On them is advertised, it's for dogs. It's like an intervention for like cutting the dog's hair and other things like that. The industry is getting bigger and bigger in all kinds of domains. And I don't see, let me mention this, I don't think it's a problem. Like, it's not a problem in the sense that, so what, you want to cut your dog's hair or do your makeup or whatever. I don't think it's a problem. It's everyone should do whatever they want. It's a problem in this kind of society because it makes people feel uncomfortable most of the time, because it makes people feel in a competition, like we said so far. That's the problem. If you wear makeup, so what? Do that. But if you wear makeup because it's a pressure from the society, that's a problem.
Yeah, if everyone around you wears makeup and you don't want to, then you will be in minority and you will be outcast. And what's not, you may cut out of some opportunities only because of that, or you essentially become weirdo.
Yeah. And I think it's also a problem because of the amount of resources we waste on all this useless crap. I mean, how useless is dog's clothes?
That says
And
you were referencing like fast
and
fashion.
makeup and fashion. It's just a huge waste of resources. Yeah, sorry, go on.
Yeah, it's actually kind of weird because like I remember I was watching a documentary in India. I think it's called Fast Fashion or something like that. But that the people even like making all these clothes and stuff and the processes they do, all those chemicals are being dumped into the rivers, and then it's actually bleaching those people's like skin and stuff because they go in there to bathe and wash their clothes and everything, and they're just getting this secondhand fast fashion. You know, gotta have it. Every quarter has to be new fashion, and then it's a better way to make a person feel inadequate about themselves if you know you're finally getting into the new trend and it's already shifted to another thing. You're in a constant state of disharmony with your homeostasis.
Because the entire fashion industry is built upon slaves.
Yeah, that
It's
too.
look at any big companies, and their slaves are working. They're bleaching their hands and their minds.
Yep.
Yeah, it's insane. It's the same also goes in prisons. Many of the private prisons in America and in Australia and other places, the prisoners are forced to create clothes as well, underwear for certain companies and different shit like that for free, or like for a $1 wage or some shit like that in prison. So they have like an abundant workforce in a way. It's another factory, exactly.
Like H&M will build another factory. Well, we call it prison, but it's just another factory.
Then it just rebrand it somehow.
Yo.
So it's not so prison, but different.
It's beautiful. It's beautiful.
Or make it fashionable.
For some
It's
CEOs, that's beautiful.
Yo.
I think those people who are from Bangladesh or other poor areas that work for the same clothing industry, they may do worse than those people in jail, because even though they don't put walls for them to like they can live, they have nowhere to go. You see, and this is the prison in real life, in free prison. You know.
They also don't have time to go anywhere because most of them work at least 6 days a week for like 12 hours. They're really very limited in their free time. And usually they're super tired, they just eat and sleep, that's it.
In many cases, people in
people
prison are
argue,
waiting
oh, they choose to do this job. I'm just saying, argue that these people choose to do this job. Like, they have a choice.
Yeah.
You said they don't have a choice? It just can't hear you.
No, I was just saying people's argument is that choose to do this.
Oh, those people are choose. Yeah, right. Yeah, they have a choice, and it's their
The optimistic
problem.
ones.
If they're not, if they're not successful, it's their problem.
Yeah, and if the factory wasn't there, then they wouldn't have jobs. So isn't it better than to have jobs?
Yeah. It's okay to throw away so much stuff, but you know, those people have to work to get those stuff in poor conditions like slaves. And I remember the documentary Sweatshop that I put into the Money Game book, where they take some girls who were very into fashion from Sweden, who bought clothes for H&M, that company, if I pronounce it right. And they go to that factory where those clothes were produced to show those girls that were into fashion how the fashion is produced. And it's so, they were so shocked because they thought like, okay, those people have jobs, they have good lives because they are paid. That shit, they could barely live. You know, they live, even like dogs on the streets in Romania live better than they were living there. It was awful, and they were very shocked. Of course, that's the reality for beauty.
Yeah,
for a
and people
subjective
just
notion.
don't see the reality. Yeah, to them, like, you know, people living in Bangalore, they can barely, you know, comprehend, you know, or care. Like, this is not a real person to them. And they see it for themselves. While they're researching where do these products are. and how are they produced? What is the effect on the people, on the environments? People don't look into these things. They just look, oh, okay, I need to buy this so that I can look cool and impress other people, and that's it. They don't look at the other side.
Factoring all
And
that.
that's how the entire Western world is
Yeah,
completely taking advantage of the rest of the world.
maybe we can find or show something how conditioning works for us, for everyone, because we are in certain ways we are all conditioned to certain things, and maybe it's interesting that people see how one gets conditioned. I know maybe it's obvious because or it's difficult because it's a long process with a lot of maybe propaganda or and stuff. But to explain that, how do you think it? Maybe it's not. I'm not asking a good question.
Is the society, like we said, is the society and the system. They both work together and push these weird notions just for the sake of making more profits out of a new thing. A new thing. You are a little bit more ugly yesterday than today. So you have to become more like
So
beautiful.
it's just associations, and then biased by those associations. Because, for example, I heard that there are cognitive biases for people try to or normally put more attention to what they feel that it's more, you know, beautiful and stuff, but they don't realize how they get conditioned in the first place to think that this is beautiful or not. And
I
I
don't think
guess
there is
that
an answer, an exact answer, like what influences you more exactly. It's just the culture overall. And if you understand that this is subjective, this is one way for you to get out of this kind of thinking. If you say, okay, this is subjective, the notion of beauty, maybe you also have to see other cultures. Like when I saw that girl from the culture with the rings on the neck, and they put rings all the time, and the necks, actually the neck is not stretching, but the shoulders are getting lower. To me, that looked weird. Like, what is this? But people in that culture, they say, "Wow, this is so beautiful, and it's so different from what I know. It's beautiful or it's normal that it makes you think." So I think you should subject people to other cultures to see.
And there's
Yeah.
no maybe just to
It's
add to
hard
that.
to go on. Son.
There's no correct way of doing things, or there's no right way, and that's the problem with beauty and with all other industries. Because beauty is like it's always linked to appearance, but it could also be to music, to sport, to health, to all kind of other things. And there's no right way of doing anything. It's all subjective, and
even to
people can
food.
enjoy. Sorry.
Yeah.
Even to food, you can prepare a beautiful dish, a plate, or
Exactly.
present it in an ugly way.
Exactly. Uh, so yeah.
But I think it's hard for people to understand that when they're so bombarded with all this, like what beauty should be and what they should strive for. So, like I had an interesting experience because I traveled through Indonesia when I was 22, and I was a little bit conscious about my nose, like a little bit, and they teacher were like constantly pointing out my nose, like touching it, some like actually grabbing it sometimes. Like people, because I traveled to Eastern Indonesia, and people like to places where people have never really seen a white person. And they would surround me and they would point at my nose. And at first, I felt really self-conscious. Like, why are these people like, the quality that I thought was that I was the most self-conscious about. And when I actually like stayed with a local like tribe and met some local person, the culture, I understood that in reality they thought my nose was beautiful because they had short flat noses and it was the opposite. So they call long nose a beautiful thing. and and then I realized it doesn't matter who about anything because if you travel around long enough, like you're gonna find somebody that thinks you're beautiful anyway. And some culture or another. And
That's true of I know I had a friend from South Korea, and he said that they will go for like the white people because they have bigger eyes. Like that's the thing for them. That's beautiful to them is the big eyes.
In South Korea, it's a big industry for. I've seen. I think you can also let's recommend a documentary that Dima recommended. Basically, it's called how does it call? It's from Video and it. Beauty is New Normal, I think.
Yeah, beauty is not normal.
Yeah, I think it shows how it's a huge industry revolving around cosmetic changes. And I've seen, I'm not sure if in that documentary or other, in South Korea, it's so stupid because girls are cutting their eyelids, they're cutting this part of their eye to make their eyes bigger, and they do some weird thing with like the bones they're breaking their bones here to make the face more contoured because they say they have an oval face, like a round face, and they need to have the amount of surgeries and the amount of even the idea of doing this. It's a bit is like come on, is in a crazy spectrum. This is not healthy anymore.
And I saw once not surgery but makeup, and I got shocked because it was like a totally different person, but really, there was a lot of different girls, but most of them were Asian. I don't know, maybe South Korea or Japan or China. I don't know exactly, but it was amazing because they also add like rubber or things to the nose and that, so they also shape the face, in a different. With the makeup, they put also rubber and stuff, so the nose was different and
shape is.
Yeah, it was like they could work for cinema special effects because it was incredible, and they were just girls at their homes.
There, you know that there's also makeup which looks like there is no makeup. There's like
I heard this argument. Yeah.
How to make a makeup so it looks like you don't have
the no makeup.
Yeah.
Just
type in YouTube.
I'm sorry to say this, but I think today girls are using so much makeup that they could be guys, because I've seen guys that you can make up guys in a way that in the same way that they look like girls. It's too much. I mean, like I know there are girls who are tattooing their eyebrows or other things like that, and I'm like,
eyelids,
okay.
or the lipsticks, yeah.
I mean, if you again, I don't want for people to understand me wrong. If you feel great in doing that, and I think it's no problem. I think it's only a problem from the pressure in the society. That's the problem here. If you feel great and you put, like Rafa said, like things here to transform your shape of your face, like whatever, it's your life.
It was incredible. I don't know how they did it.
The crazy part is that in today's society, most people that are looked up to had like crazy surgeries, face surgeries and ass surgeries and whatever, and through that they will be promoting millions of other people to do the same thing, which is of course gonna help so many different the entire cosmetic industry, continue, and they're then promoting all kind of different makeup, and you gotta take this shit now and buy this new product, and it's just a cyclical process.
think in that documentary they show this. They show that, for example, clinics provide free breast implants to Instagram superstars, and they are like taking photos, and say, look, you want a pair? Go here.
It's very interesting to see in this movie how these YouTube stars and Instagram stars, they contact the surgeons who do plastic operation and ask them for endorsements. So to get books for free, and then they promote them on their page. So
yeah. So it's not for free, it's an exchange.
And I've noticed that people do they don't, girls and boys in the same category today, but they don't only that they put so much makeup to, I feel like because of the social pressure, they add filters on Instagram or whatever, they put those photos in a way that honestly, if someone is missing, I'm not sure if you can find that human being just based on the online photos.
It will
I-
recognize, you know.
Their
I'm-
facial recognition iPhone probably can't even tell the
Yeah.
difference.
Yeah, right.
I feel like it's too much, but if you're okay and if you don't feel pressure from the society, but I doubt
Yeah.
this. I mean, yeah. And it's interesting because you see year by year almost a new fashion trend. Like, I think now girls are like, they like big eyebrows or something like that because it's this crazy thing. Or 5 years ago it was like very thin eyebrows, and you start to see even for guys the haircut and stuff like that. You can see that there is an influence from somewhere, from some superstars or from some companies that promote those superstars, like Cristiano Ronaldo or something like that.
Yeah, because you begin to see more and more people looking alike. Yeah, I realize
Alike, yeah.
that when I go to the streets, it's like, okay, I cannot tell the
Recognize
difference. No,
Yeah.
all are the
because
same
they are
minions.
yeah, here more people like wear long hair and caps and no like this. How do you say? I don't remember the word, but it's an American and North American word. I don't know. It doesn't matter,
It's a
but yes,
particular
it's
style.
you see the trend and people. No, yes, true.
And what others don't understand is that they think that is extreme. But if we were born with one eye in the forehead, then it will be normal. And a guy with two eyes, we will be like, what the fuck, the two-eye guy it will be crazy. However, if you are one eye guy and you will be educated, you will not make fun of that two-eye guy. So it's the same kind of thing, through education and realizing that this is subjective, you will not have this shitty, because I feel it's such a shitty attitude to comment about how other people look like, and you are doing a bad thing to yourself as well. Because if you comment about other people, you will in turn you will think that others will comment about you, how you look like. So it's not healthy for you.
And you're not
Just,
giving that person much of a chance. Like, you could gain something from that person. Maybe, I mean, they could be an interesting person. You can become friends with them, perhaps put them out straight just because you're told that they're ugly.
But purple doesn't mix with green. So what are you talking about? Because I've heard so many people like doing, but it doesn't match the dress with the shoes, and what the
do you
fuck?
want to look like the Joker?
I had a debate once with a girl. She was doing makeup. She was a professional makeup artist, and I was doing web design. And we had like a debate, like what colors match, just to see what she thinks about. And it was completely different because for me, it's like if I put red on a black background, you cannot read the text. It doesn't match. And she was like, no, red with black, it matches. And it changes the way that you see such things.
The other day, I was watching a funny Spanish program that they were making they were surgery doctors, and it's like they changed the beauty canon. So the girl wants to make this part of the ear bigger, but she already looked like balls hanging on like meatballs hanging on their ears. And the one said, no, you don't need more, and the other said, okay, our business is to make surgery, so yeah, you should make it bigger, these ear parts make bigger. And and then the guy went home, and his son wanted to get operated because he wants his eyes closer. It's just backwards of culture, because it was making funny about stereotypes and beauty stereotypes, and I found that hilarious because nobody in my culture will like to have their eyes closest. So
In our
it was
culture, they also try
different.
to mix health with beauty, and in this very, very weird way. Like they think that even the ads that you see a guy that is so muscle, and he promotes some healthy things, healthy lifestyle. I bet that guy is not healthy, because you cannot be healthy if you push your body to such extremes, And maybe you take
The
steroids or
same,
whatever you do.
yeah. And the same goes as well in the dentist industry, for example. Most dentists and why people go to dentists in the first place is purely, or like, I don't know how much percentage, but it's mainly as well for aesthetic looks, not for function. Yeah, braces and all that kind of things starting from a young age.
Yeah. Yeah, when I went to the dentist once, because I needed braces because my teeth were so cracked, were so like all over the place that I couldn't bite properly, and I had all kinds of problems. I had headaches and so forth, and it was so expensive. But I went to a dentist in Romania, and this charlatan, he put me to, like, first you have to make your teeth whiter, and then you have to do this and you have to do that. And I spent all of my money. I made a website then, and all of the money from that website I spent on fucking preparing to put braces, and nothing happened because I was like, he took all of my money and then fuck off. Luckily, I was able to put them later on in Spain, and even then it was like, so look what happened. I went to Spain to a dentist, and she looked everything and she said, okay, I have a proposal for you. What if they wanted to break my jaw? Imagine that, break my jaw and put it further so that I can have a proper bite. But I was, and I was like, are you serious? I mean, are you talking serious here? And she really wanted to do that. I was like, no, just put braces and we can wait 2-3 years and everything was fine. But that proposal for me was crazy. How can you want to break my jaw and put it further just to have a proper bite? I mean, come on. That big of a problem.
Now you're
Yeah, I
beautiful.
was shocked. But
Do you want to
Thank
see
you.
how I bite?
you want to bite us? Yeah, because they have such notions. They may think that this is normal. They don't. I wouldn't ask such a question for if I would be a dentist. I mean, if I would be a dentist, I wouldn't ask like, you want to break your jaw and put it further, because I would think it's crazy. But for them, it's a business. It's nothing. It's a normal thing. Yeah. So Sasha disappeared. So, what do you think it will look like in the future? Like, if we are removing this word beauty, what would you say when you see something? You see a home. Oh, this home is so interesting. It's so functional. For girls, you might replace it with, oh, this girl is so sexy, maybe. But if you take the word beautiful, maybe you force yourself to like come up with, like, dig deep inside you and see what do you appreciate about that. Because in the end, it's just a reaction to something that we call beauty. What is this reaction about?
Yeah, for sure. Because if you look at a painting or music, it's like you say, "Oh, it's beautiful," but what do you mean by that? Do you like, what in specific? Then you will point out all the different aspects of it that you find interesting, or that amuse you, or arouse you, or that you understand something about, and this and that.
I don't understand when people look like a Lamborghini or something, then they say, wow, this is such a beautiful car. And I'm like, what the fuck? 2 seats? What are you doing with this car? You cannot even, where do you drive this car? I'm like, a
and
beautiful
so low,
like, yeah, it's so low. You cannot even jump after those speed bumpers or something. Like, what are you doing? To me, it's crazy. Crazy.
The beauty is in numbers. How much does it cost?
What about
What about people wearing diamonds? That's another crazy thing. Diamond. I have a diamond. Look how beautiful it is. I'm like, I mean, it's a diamond. It's you can make them artificially, but they don't care. It's my wedding ring, so shut the fuck up.
jewelry? Yeah. Jewelry in general, it seems quite just wear items on your body to impress people. Yeah.
Like you can
Just
look at
another
gold.
waste of resources.
You can look at gold and say, this is so beautiful, it's so shiny. However, you can look at gold and say, it conducts electricity so well, and this is another way of looking at it. And instead, we'll use it for jewelry. Like only a small fraction is used for electronics, for example. Okay. I think we covered a lot.
Yeah, we did.
If you want, you can go to read a few news, and because that's what we do.
Got it.
Let's punch in some news if we have something. We have only a few.
So
Maybe they are interesting.
The porn filters is first.
Because it's like it's in the topic. The UK is putting, it has in place a porn filter. I'm not sure how the fuck this works. Like, what do they look for? It's only images or even words. But what I know is that they blocked the Internet Archive, the most non-pornographic website in the world that is the most useful education. They blocked it because why not? Why not block that? So yeah, it's a crazy. If you read the article, it's a fucking crazy. The crazy thing.
So
Do we have something else?
I don't understand the new
The what?
Oh, the
about
news. So
the new about UK porn filters. I guess that they were filtering porn, meaning that when people look at porn, they will get banned or something like that. Or
no,
what is
they won't be able to
sorry.
reach it at all. Is the thing. They were blocking basically at the height. They said 20% of the entire internet. So not 20% porn, but like 20% of the internet, and porn was lumped in there with, you know, some other stuff like private internet access, a VPN provider. Like, they were blocked entirely, but that has nothing to do with, you know, pornography or anything. It's kind of like a overbearing censorship. Just nuke it from orbit and then let everybody else, like, hey, you like you know, I can't visit this website anymore, and there's nothing to do with pornography. You know what? That's just unacceptable.
Yeah.
Okay.
To deal with things.
You said something very interesting. It's like in this world we solve problems with nukes. We see like an infestation of like some bugs in an area. When we throw a nuke and we kill 1 million people and the bugs as well, and we're like, yeah, problem solved.
But then everybody else who's still around is like, wait a minute, we're still here. Still got problems. But yeah, it's just a very overbearing filter practice of censorship.
And I think they have actually, if you want to opt out of it, you go to the government. If I read well, and you say, "Can you put me on the list on the porn filter? I don't want the porn filter." And then they put you on the list, and you say, "Okay, this guy doesn't want the porn filter in place." You know, it's like, what are you doing? You know, it's so embarrassing and stupid.
Yeah. And then there's something about like addressing unique porn IDs to like magazines and stuff. Like, they're trying to. It seems like just everything that's failed in the past, they're trying now.
And you are wondering, like, why?
Yeah.
You know, put this question: why? Why are you doing this? Why? Like, why? What do you want to achieve? Because people, if they want to search for porn, they will find it even on YouTube. You do nothing. You only make this taboo that people are seeking for.
Exactly.
People will create it underground, you know, or see it underground. It's like.
Sorry, lighter things become material. So the Sears catalog, you know, before there was a thing, it was like it would be like this generic whatever, and it just becomes that. It's people can do it with anything. If you, the things people are into, like, yeah, they'll find beauty and that in anything. So it's like, okay, these things are bad. Who are you to say?
I find it so outrageous to ban pornography, for example. Like, why? What the fuck are you trying to do? Like, it's not like it.
Two consenting adults and like agreeing to release like a film or whatever. Like, where's the issue in that at all?
Even the porn industry, like the porn websites, like, so what's the problem here? It's an outbreak of what? Like, it fucks people's minds. I don't see, because they are already watching porn if they want to. You make it more interesting, actually, because it's like, you know, when in school they banned us from smoking, all of the kids were in the back of the school smoking. They were the coolest kids in the school.
Oh. Jeez. Next news article is about the scientists signing a petition to warn about electromagnetic frequencies, so radiation from like Bluetooth and wireless. I guess non-ionizing radiation sources, so wireless cell phones.
This?
Go ahead.
Did you read this?
I did a little bit, yeah. I'm not.
So it's interesting because I was thinking that this is complete bullshit, but apparently it kind of is, or anyways. But they are doing now like a meta study to basically correlate the wireless technologies with all kinds of diseases. But in fact, it's a very weak correlation, because I know there are so many people who are afraid of like wireless technology and they think they causes cancer and so forth. And they're trying now to be more scientific about it, but it's a very weak correlation so far. And that's the news.
Yeah, very weak. And yeah, it looks like the people they were like even pulling in were like the people with EMS, the electromagnetic sensitivity, but it's a very
Yeah.
goofy. Yeah, that's
They say that there are some people who have like they sense those signals, but they did all kinds of studies and they couldn't prove that you can sense like the wireless signal or whatever.
yeah, not better than like a 50-50 choice. The next one is Icon launches new large-scale Vulkan 2 3D printer. I guess
Did you read it?
That's cool.
I did not read this one.
Okay,
but
let me explain. So it's a company working with a non-profit. They are making 3D printed houses for poor areas, and they can build them in 24 hours. So it's a very interesting
Wow.
concept. Yeah, they show videos and stuff like that, how they are doing it.
I would love to have one of those.
If you have the land where to put it,
Yep.
Yeah.
they cannot print that.
Oh, they're custom homes even. Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, they can make all kinds of things. But to me, the approach, it's very noble and very great, but they don't address the bigger problem. Like we have more than enough homes in the world.
Yeah.
We don't lack a way to build homes, or to build cheaply. We lack a way to distribute homes.
And the last news is that eye test can pick up Alzheimer's. Or I guess there's the eye test.
Yeah. This is interesting. They developed a test that they kind of can pick up Alzheimer's signs early on by studying the eye and blood vessels. But again, they don't know if this is creating, like it's an alarm sound for Alzheimer, or Alzheimer is creating this kind of thing. So it's an interesting research. And it's from NHS Behind the Headlines. It's a website that I really, really love, because they take studies and they break them down so scientifically. Like, look how many people were involved. Look the conclusion. Look, it's a very readable form. It's beautifully put there. So I recommend people go to their website and
Yes, I really like. I never seen this way of presenting a new, and I find it very educational.
straight to the
Indeed,
point.
because yes, and the questions they always have for an article. Where did the story come from? What kind of research was this? What were the basic results? How did the researchers interpret the results? These are basic questions, I guess, for every scientific news.
That's how
I really
the
like
news
that.
health should be. That's how all of the news health websites should be. Like, show me exactly what happens in readable form. So because you understand it so well, you don't have to make a wow breakthrough, a new Alzheimer test was found. No, present me exactly what happened, but it's not in their interest to do that. Of course, we can repeat that a million times. It's because traits. So I think that's
And also
it.
lots of links, always.
Sources and
Yeah.
No, that's it for the news this week.
So if I were to summarize this subject, if I will start, I will say that beauty is always subjective, and there is no scientific proof that there is something more beautiful than something else, and culture proves this on a global scale. And if we understand this, the smarter you are, or the more knowledgeable you are about the world and other cultures, the less of a you will bitch less about people wearing this or wearing that, and you are less harmful to other people and to yourself, because no one can tell me, Theo, you're so fucking ugly. I'm like, what? So what? If you believe that, I mean, okay, I'm not hurt at all, and you will not get hurt, others will not get hurt. So we have to create a smarter society, but again, this trait-based society is always going to push these extremes in terms of beauty. So put this disease away.
Very well
Anyone
said.
else?
Yeah, it was.
Good summary.
Great summary.
Yeah.
Anything
Okay,
else?
anyone else?
I think you greatly summarize everything. I don't
that was
even know what to add else.
Yeah, same here.
Approved.
Okay, so next
Bye.
week, same hour.
Yep. So next
Yeah.
Sounds
Alright.
great.
On Facebook and YouTube.
Yep. Worked. All right, guys.
Okay,
See you next week.
bye-bye.
See you next
Bye.
week. Bye.